56% of AI professionals cannot say how fast they could shut down an AI system. Only 12% have tested that process. That is not a technology gap. That is an architecture failure. 3 frameworks moved to close it this year. The one most architects opened first did not move at all. Which framework is your organization still relying on?
Let's get into it.
56% of AI professionals cannot say how fast they could shut down an AI system in an emergency. This is the Hamberger Report. I'm Andreas Hamberger, Enterprise Architect and Board Director, Wellington. That finding comes from ISACA's 2026 AI Pulse Poll, a survey of more than 3,400 audit, governance, cybersecurity, and privacy professionals. Only 12% have a documented, tested process for shutting an AI system down. That is not a technology problem. That is an architecture problem. It is not a finding about capability either. Enterprise adoption of agentic AI is already well underway. It is a finding about governance, keeping pace with what has already been deployed. For 3 years, the ALEA Model has argued that agentic AI needs 4 things: named agent identity, trustworthy data provenance, flow-based operational modeling, and enforceable human-in-the-loop guardrails. That argument was, until recently, ahead of the frameworks practitioners are professionally required to know. Something changed in the last 12 months. 3 major governance instruments moved to require, in some form, exactly what the ALEA model proposed. One did not move at all, and it happens to be the standard most enterprise architects open first. PeopleCert announced ITIL version 5 on the 29th of January 2026, describing it as AI native by design. For the first time, a major IT service management standard places AI accountability at the definitional level, not in a supplementary white paper. ITIL v5 introduces agentic AI as a defined governance construct, sitting alongside terms like digital product, digital service, and value co-creation. Concretely, it addresses how incident management should work when an AI resolves a service ticket before a human ever sees it. And it positions AI as a stakeholder in service delivery rather than a tool a human operates. It does not use the phrase algorithmic failure as a formal category. That language belongs to the Reserve Bank, which we will come to. But it operationalizes the same underlying requirement the ALEA model calls agent personas. Every agent acting inside a service workflow must be attributable, owned, and subject to the same controls as a human operator. PeopleCert has committed to updating all 34 ITIL4 management practice publications through the second half of 2026 with dedicated new publications on AI governance, product, service, and strategy, already released or announced. Tomorrow on the channel, Lethal by Design closes its run with the 9th and final episode. 9 weeks tracing the accountability gap in autonomous weapons ends with the same question this series keeps asking: who is actually responsible when the system decides? ISACA launched 3 AI-specific credentials in a 12-month window. Our AI Advanced in AI Audit, launched in May 2025. Our AAISM Advanced in AI Security Management, described as the first AI-centric security management certification, launched in August 2025. AIR Advanced in AI Risk, followed in April 2026, covering AI risk governance, framework integration, and lifecycle risk management. 3 certifications from the profession's own standards body in 12 months is not incremental. It signals that the body representing IT audit and governance practitioners concluded existing credentials do not cover AI risk adequately. Full stop. Enterprise architects proposing AI governance structures to their organizations now have a professional credentialing structure to point to, not just an internal argument. That distinction matters more for board reporting than it might first appear. A named credential body is easier to cite in a governance paper than an internal architecture position, however sound the internal argument already is. TOGAF 10th edition, published in 2022 by the Open Group, remains the canonical standard. As of July 2026, no new major edition integrating generative AI governance or large language model architecture risk into the architecture development method has been released. That does not mean the open group has done nothing. A 2025 series guide update exists as a supplementary document, not a revision to the core method. The Open Group's Oslo Summit in April 2026, marking TOGAF's 30th anniversary, drew more than 300 practitioners and featured AI governance as a central conference theme. What none of this amounts to is an ADM update. The gap between active AI tooling investment and a static core method is the story. Practitioners assembling AI governance today are not following an updated TOGAF ADM. They are building a patchwork from ISACA's AAIR and AAISM credentials, ISO 42001 Management System Certification, and ITIL v5's new AI governance publications. That patchwork works, but it is not integrated. And the pattern holds beyond New Zealand. The European Union's Digital Operational Resilience Act treats AI systems inside critical infrastructure as subject to existing resilience obligations. Singapore released the world's first agentic AI governance framework in January 2026. Different instruments, same conclusion. AI in production is an operational risk requiring continuous governance, not a certificate earned once. For 2 decades, accrediting a military system meant a point-in-time authorization. Assessed once, then left largely unexamined until the next scheduled review, often 3 years later. Defense solved this problem before anyone else had to. The United States Department of Defense has moved to a continuous authorization to operate, known as continuous ATO, which requires active monitoring, a live control baseline, and a named authorizing official who holds personal accountability for the system's risk position at all times. That is the same conclusion the Reserve Bank, the Service Management Standard, and the audit profession are all reaching for artificial intelligence in production. A system is not certified once and forgotten. It is governed continuously by an accountable human. Long frameworks most architects opened first are only now catching up to what defense already documents. The Reserve Bank's own proposal asks each deposit taker's board to define a tolerance level for every critical operation and to evaluate whether AI failure, misuse, model drift, or cyber compromise could impair delivery of that operation. The board carries ultimate responsibility for those tolerance levels. The same personal accountability continuous ATO already assigns to a named official. Lay the AAIA Model's 4 pillars next to ITIL v5, ISACA's credentials, and the Reserve Bank's proposed standard, and every one of them lands on at least one pillar. TOGAF's architecture development method lands on none. On agent personas, identity, ownership, provenance, ITIL v5 names agentic AI as a governance construct and treats AI as an accountable stakeholder. ISACA's AAISM covers AI governance and program management directly. The Reserve Bank's proposal requires the board to trace an AI system's connection to each critical operation it touches. On trustworthy data, AIR covers AI lifecycle risk management. The Reserve Bank's board must evaluate poor data quality as a tolerance trigger in its own right. On flow-based modeling, ITIL v5 updates incident management for AI-resolved tickets. AAIR covers framework integration across the AI lifecycle. The board must trace the operational flows through which AI affects the critical operation. On ethical guardrails, ITIL v5 positions AI as a governed stakeholder rather than an autonomous actor. AAISM covers AI risk controls and technologies. The board must embed human-in-the-loop capacity to act before a tolerance breach. 4 pillars, 3 frameworks converging on each one, and a 4th framework with no embedded provision on any of them. If you are working with a New Zealand deposit taker, start now, not in 2028. Tolerance definitions and critical operation mapping take longer to build properly than a consultation timeline suggests. If you are working anywhere else, the practical takeaway is the same regardless of jurisdiction. Do not wait for TOGAF's architecture development method to formally catch up before you build agent accountability, data provenance tracking, flow-based operational modeling, and human-in-the-loop guardrails into your architecture practice. The professional credentialing bodies, the Service Management Standard, and at least one prudential regulator have already told you what good looks like. The framework gap is not a reason to wait. It is the reason the work in front of you exists. What would your board say today if asked to define the tolerance level for AI failure in your most critical operation? If the honest answer is we haven't defined that yet, that is this episode doing its job. Tell me where your organization actually sits and what it would take to close the gap. This has been EA Thursday, part of the Hamberger Report. See you next week.
That is the Hamberger Report for today. If this was useful, subscribe and hit the like button. It helps more professionals find the channel. You will find links to everything we covered in the description below. I am Andreas Hamberger, and I will see you tomorrow.
Like and subscribe.